What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the weekend, we had a massive game announcement happen that certainly had people shocked online, but also had people running back to the Nvidia leak list, because this game is one that was on there that certainly people were laughing at and saying, well, that doesn't make any sense. We're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about this weird set of events that's hit the Nintendo Switch with a game that was supposed to release last week, seemingly leaking out early because Nintendo accidentally authenticated it for someone. And we're also going to be talking about SEGA and this super game that they're still trying to explain. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Bandai Namco and a new trademark that was spotted that could be pointing towards another dot hack collection. We can see this posted up over on Gematsu. We can see last Recollection. Now, this was filed on April 1st, but just made public like a day ago. And Gematsu's kind of theorizing after looking at dot hack GU Last Recode, that being a collection of the GU series on the PS4, Switch, and PC, that this could be a collection of the first 4 dot hack games that were on the PS2, that being Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine, which if you look up that collection right now, on eBay, where you get those 4 PS2 titles complete in box, it's like $600 or more. So a $60 collection, I would say, would be very welcomed here, considering that's still the only way you can really play them is if you get them for the PS2. So to me, it makes sense. They already did GU, why not do the first 4? Although the one really cool thing about having them in the box complete is if you put them up on your shelf and you have the spines together, it makes a cool picture. It was a fun time back then on the PS2, but I wouldn't be shocked if this is something they're lining up to announce maybe over the summer. Also, we know heading into May, we're going to see the launch of Season 2 for Halo Infinite, and it looks like they've started up their marketing campaign several weeks out. We can see this posted up over on Twitter from the Halo account saying, prepare to join the hunt, Spartans. Season 2 of Halo Infinite arrives on May 3rd. They go on to say, Lone Wolves, gear up for Season 2 of Halo Infinite. Experience fresh content, including new maps, modes, themed limited time events, and an all-new battle pass that never expires. So we're expecting a new battle pass. The maps that have kind of been outlined so far is 1 arena and 1 big team battle. The big team battle map does sound kind of cool, as it appears that it's going to be like a map that gets split in half as you play through it. So that could be kind of interesting there. And I believe the modes, we have Last Spartan Standing that was sort of leaked out with a description, and then Land Grab. So we'll see about this battle pass, as they said they did take feedback from the community around some of the unlocks, especially that weekly challenge unlock that was really annoying because it ended up being like some of the tougher challenges you have to finish up to get it. And it was like a backdrop image. It's like, great. And it couldn't have been a shader or something interesting. No, it's just like a little picture that they uploaded there. So we'll see. I'm going to be heading back into Halo Infinite's playlists and matchmaking over the coming weeks just to get ready for this Season 2 release at the beginning of May. Oh, and Chrono Cross Remaster did release last week to all platforms, and unfortunately, it looks like there are some issues with this version of the game. We can see this posted up by Eurogamer. The new Chrono Cross Remaster runs worse on PS5 than the original on PS1. There's a whole video by Digital Foundry going over. They sound so disappointed, by the way, in this video, because they show like the frame rate, and the frame drops on the PS5 is so weird because it actually runs at a worse frame rate at times than the original PlayStation version. And when they use the AI upscaling in the game to attempt to smooth out the backdrops that your characters walk around on, looks really blurry and smudged. But then if you go back to the original backdrops from the PS1, looks very pixelated on larger sets. The one nice thing, I guess, the character models look pretty good, but then when you take them and put them against the AI upscaled backdrops, it just does not look right at all. So unfortunate for Chrono Cross Remaster. Here's hoping that Square can come up with some patches now and try to fix this whole thing, but certainly check out Digital Foundry's video before you decide to pick this one up. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the big game announcement over the weekend, and that's Kingdom Hearts 4. This was a title on that Nvidia leak list that people were laughing at, like, that's not gonna happen. They're all done after Kingdom Hearts 3. Well, not quite, as they actually announced 2 different titles for the Kingdom Hearts series. We'll start with the first one. It is a cell phone game, so I know there are a lot of people who are just kind of like walking right past this one, but we can see some of the trailer here. This is for Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. It's announced for iOS and Android, and it's heading into closed beta. At least that's where they're planned for now, August 2022. Say players will be able to engage in exhilarating battles against the Heartless and discover a new original story. For what I picture a cell phone game to look like, this isn't too bad, actually. So we'll see how that one turns out when it heads into closed beta towards the end of this year. But obviously, the big announcement that people were like really excited about, talking about a lot online, is indeed that Kingdom Hearts 4 is at least announced and in development. I think we're years off of this one, potentially a 2025 release, but still, the fact that they went ahead and announced it, and not only announced it, but showed off in-engine gameplay and at least gave us an idea as to where they're heading with the series was pretty cool. We also got a press release from Square where they say Sora makes a triumphant return with an updated look at the beginning of an epic new storyline titled The Lost Master Arc. Beginning with Sora facing off in a boss battle against a giant enemy, players are introduced to the Quadratum, a large, expansive city set in a gorgeous, realistic world unlike anything ever seen before in the Kingdom Hearts series. Towards the end of the trailer, they also did show Donald and Goofy, so though they will be in this game. It's great for fans there. And as they were showing off, I guess the art style or the visuals they had there, it was kind of weird because it looks just more realistic, or at least a more realistic take on the Kingdom Hearts universe. And it looks like Sora's slowly morphing into Noctis. That was the first thing that came to my mind when they showed Sora at first there. But, you know, I think it works. They did mention it is currently in Unreal Engine 4, and it will be transitioning to Unreal Engine 5 as they go through development, which is another thing that tells me we're years off here. And what they showed looked impressive when it came to the gameplay and the visuals, but as we know with Square, they'll show off a very early part of the game, this vertical slice like this boss battle, and when we see it come out in like 3 or 4 years, it won't quite look the same. And while we saw something like that with Kingdom Hearts 3, it's not like exclusive to this series. We've seen it with Final Fantasy, whether it's 13 Verses or, well, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That's just kind of the way it is with Square. Things change as they go through development. They're transitioning from Unreal Engine 4 to 5, but I mean, that's exciting stuff to hear that Kingdom Hearts 4 will be on like the latest Unreal Engine, and obviously this is going to be a PS5, Xbox Series version of the game, and they're not going to be targeting PS4 or Xbox One unless they want to work with those systems potentially in 2025. But it was a pretty funny set of events. As this game was announced, there was a lot of excitement online, theories started popping up everywhere, and then people realized, wait, this was a game on that Nvidia leak list that didn't seem very realistic, and here we are with Kingdom Hearts 4 now being announced. There are actually a couple of games on there, like even God of War on PC, Crysis 4, and a few others that kept kind of surprising people that it was an actual thing. Naturally, then people ran back to the list and started looking through, specifically with Square Enix, and well, they picked out Final Fantasy IX Remake. And at this point, hey, anything's possible on this list, so I'm just gonna assume that there is indeed a Final Fantasy IX remake that is at least in earlier active development now. Doesn't mean we're gonna hear about it anytime soon, but hey, Square likes to tell us about things way in advance, much like we're seeing here with Kingdom Hearts 4, so why not go ahead and announce that. And Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, how would they go about that? Would they put it into HD 2D and risk it maybe looking a little too much like Project Triangle or Triangle Strategy? Or would they do the Chrono Cross remaster? You know what, just do HD 2D. So go take a look at that Nvidia leak list again, and I mean, let your imagination run wild. There's Titanfall 3 is on the list, Injustice 3 is there, Half-Life 2 remastered, maybe Valve wants to bring Half-Life 2 to current platforms, take advantage of things like the DualSense controller and have a portable version there on the Switch, or Dragon's Dogma 2. Like I said, a lot of possibilities here, and Kingdom Hearts 4 is real. It was announced, so anything's possible. Next up, let's talk about a weird situation that's currently going on with the Nintendo Switch, and that being for a game that was supposed to release last week, but we know was delayed. That's Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. See, it appears that it actually authenticated for someone, and they were able to download the game and start it on their Switch Lite specifically. This was posted up over on Twitter by Rachel saying, finally getting to play Advance Wars, but only on my Switch Lite, which had preloaded it prior to what happened. They go on to say, "Will not lie, I did think other people had access to this and didn't expect this tweet to blow up like it did. I have no idea why it's letting me play, but as far as I'm concerned, I paid $50 for this, so I'm going with it." And I mean, they went on to show off quite a bit of gameplay footage that, to my knowledge, has not appeared online. Also screenshots and everything there. And later on, they went on to say, "Nintendo have sent an email saying they're canceling my purchase and refunding. Was fun while it lasted. Got a few missions of the first game's campaign done," which seems strange because I assume you could just disconnect it from the internet with that Switch Lite, like put an airplane mode or something, and it should at least stay authenticated for like, I think it's like 30 days or something with the Switch. Correct me if I'm wrong though on how long that authentication limit is for digital purchases as well as the Nintendo Switch Online with N64 Super Nintendo. I remember there was like a time limit on that one. And looking at this whole thing, something does seem very weird here. I mean, could this person maybe have just got a physical copy from a store that broke Street Date or something? Yeah, that's possible. I mean, if we think about it, it was kind of delayed at the last minute, and I have a feeling this game is just stacked up in warehouses all over the world currently. So one could have kind of slipped out the back door at some point. Could this actually have happened though, and maybe it authenticated for like this one person? Yeah, that's possible too. Like I said, it was certainly something that was not planned for this game to be delayed, obviously, but Nintendo's trying to be fluid with the moment and everything going on right now in the world. So I guess it's possible, just seems extremely unlikely. But since their last tweet, they've continued to post more pictures and video of the game. So I guess it's not deactivated yet by Nintendo. We'll see if anything else comes about from this, or if we just end up getting a tweet. It's like, oh yeah, it's been deactivated, I can't play it anymore. And I guess we just kind of hang out, wait for Nintendo to let us know when the game is coming out. Is this something that's a month-long delay? Is this something they'll end up releasing again in the summertime? Hard to say now, as I'm sure even Nintendo is trying to work all of that out. But apparently, right now online, there's at least one person who's already playing Advance Wars 1+2. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Sega's Super Game. This is a very weird thing because no one really knows what they're talking about here, and they keep trying to describe it as, from what I can tell, just a AAA game, something they're gonna go all in on and try to leverage technologies like cloud computing, as they do have a partnership with Microsoft to utilize Azure for development and I guess post-release support or just functionality in general. But they attempted once again to go at least in depth as to what Super Game exactly means. This from VGC, as they actually found an interview with an executive VP at Sega going over a job recruitment site. This translated by VGC, where they say Sega offers a wide range of game content, including hardware and arcade content, which is made possible by its diverse range of technologies. We have defined Super Game as the development of AAA titles that cross over Sega's comprehensive range of technologies, and we'll aim to achieve this in our 5-year plan. Remember, that was something that was outlined in their investors report, that this is going to be a long development time for a series of titles, because this isn't referring to just one. They say several titles are being developed within the framework of Super Game. And while each title will vary, there is no doubt that they will be interactive titles that go beyond the traditional framework of games. For example, in the past, people who have played games were called gamers, but now watching games has become a culture in itself, and such people could no longer be called gamers. I think there is great potential in the relationship between people who play and watch games. We're thinking of creating new entertainment within these possibilities. They also have this like set of criteria with 4 different points: multi-platform, okay, global multi-language development, simultaneous worldwide release, and AAA titles. Okay, so they say, in other words, you can imagine that the scale of game development will be that of global blockbuster. They say several projects are currently underway for Super Game. In my department, around 50 people already involved in the initial stages. We expect that the final number of employees to be several hundred. Oh, and one last point, they say it is a natural extension for the future of gaming that it will expand to involve new areas such as cloud gaming and NFT. We are also developing Super Game from the perspective of how far different games can be connected to each other. Okay, so we saw that Sega NFT trademark. We kind of wrote it off as like, oh, they'd probably trademarked that before they basically polled the audience in an interview like, hey, what do you guys think about us doing NFTs? And they got some backlash and they sort of backed off from it. But who knows where we'll be 5 years from now with the idea of this Super Game where they try to interconnect I guess all of their games kind of together. Again, they're doing their best to explain it, but this is something they're gonna have to just show us. They're talking about like social networking and maybe you have one account that goes between all these different games. NFTs or non-fungible tokens would I guess in a perfect world, be used to take items from one game to the other, but no one knows how exactly that would work. And I guess Sega was like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll just make a phrase super game, dump a lot of money in this. We're talking about hundreds of developers and 5-year dev time with multiple titles and hope it works out. This really sounds like a massive risk on Sega's part. One that I'm a little concerned if it doesn't work or at least hit and sell how they would like it to, could really hurt Sega. So here's hoping everything they've been working up towards here with the deal with Microsoft for Azure, apparently them looking into cloud computing, they at least have some interesting ideas that can tie all of this together. Because if it ends up coming out as like a very generic new IP or even trying to tap older intellectual properties that don't really work in this space, it could be pretty bad for Sega. So we'll keep an eye on this 5-year plan. And it sounds like, once again, that'll be releasing around time Kingdom Hearts 4. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, do you want Square Enix to remake Final Fantasy IX after what we saw with Final Fantasy VII Remake? Hey, 59% said yes, 41% said no. And I saw some people in the comments who were like, well, I'd like them to remake Final Fantasy IX, but I don't know if I want them to change things up like they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake. And the one thing I'll say about this, and maybe working towards the idea of a 1-to-1 remake with Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VII, I would just say as characters who are way more recognizable than Final Fantasy IX. I mean, obviously, a lot of people look back on Final Fantasy VII with very fond memories as like the big 3D RPG that got them into RPGs in the first place when it came west on the PS1. While a lot of people look at Final Fantasy IX as being a better JRPG overall, it's just not as well known as Final Fantasy VII. So maybe Square looks at it and says, hey, we're not gonna make this a multi-part series. We're just gonna come in 1-to-1 remake with Final Fantasy IX and obviously leverage technologies now that we have. Maybe they throw in Unreal Engine. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for this. I would be a little surprised if they decided to turn this into like a 4-game series like we think Final Fantasy VII Remake might be, and they change the story and do all these different things. And you know what? I'm curious if people would rather have that 1-to-1 remake and it's just one game, or have like a multi-part series where they go crazy with the story. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Jantoris saying, I think it is inevitable that we get at least Pokemon Stadium with the expansion pack. Therefore, the rumored Game Boy Color games need to come out alongside it so that we can get the true experience of raising Pokemon on Red and Blue, then battling them in Stadium. So the idea at that time, the N64, big push in 3D visuals, we had Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow on our little Game Boys, and we're like, wow, it would look really cool on the Nintendo 64. So we got Stadium so we could transfer them over to using that little transfer pack. Don't know if it's as necessary now, since you can just play Pokemon on the screen, big screen, you know, with all these different Pokemon games that have released on the Switch. But let's face it, the expansion pack, the subscription service, like runs primarily on nostalgia. And yeah, it would be pretty cool if we got Game Boy with Pokemon Blue and Red, and then we had Pokemon Stadium, and they would connect together and you could just at least move them over and relive the old days of 3D and Pokemon Stadium. Also, had some pretty fun mini games, so if nothing else, that'd be pretty cool to have in the expansion pack. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the massive game announcement over the weekend for Kingdom Hearts 4, but also the Nvidia leak list comes up again. Let me know what you think is next off of that leak list to surprise a lot of people. Also, what about Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp? It's a strange set of circumstances here. Do you think someone is actually playing that early? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.